The Great Nordic Biker War, sometimes called the Great Northern Biker War or Great Scandinavian Biker War, refers to the violent gang war that began in 1994 and continued until 1997 in many parts of Scandinavia, mainly involving Hells Angels MC and Bandidos MC, but also involving many prospect and support clubs. The cities mainly affected by the war were Copenhagen in Denmark, Helsinki in Finland, Oslo in Norway, and Helsingborg and Malmö in Sweden. On December 30, 1980, the then United MC was appointed the first Hells Angels HA chapter in Scandinavia. Their long-standing opponents Filthy Few were not keen to accept the new chapter at any level. Along with several members of other Copenhagen MC clubs, they formed the hard anti-Hells Angels MC crew known as Bullshit MC. They settled at Christiania, benefited from the cannabis trade there, and, in September 1983, paid a visit to a well-known Hells Angels pub. This visit instigated a bloodbath that would last for the following 2 years and 4 months. The result of this first Scandinavian MC war was the murder of 8 Bullshit members, including 3 presidents, 1 Hells Angels member, and 2 innocent people. In addition, Bullshit MC members were also prime suspects for the murder of 2 non-bikers during the war. When the police visited the former clubhouse of Bullshit in 1986, they also found the corpse of a man beneath the clubhouse floor. The first war was limited to Copenhagen alone, unlike the second, and the number of deaths during the Copenhagen War met or exceeded the number of deaths in the following war. Unlike the second war, the first had a clear winner and no peace treaty was required. In 1984, Morticians MC was formed, and by the early 1990s, there were many motorcycle clubs across Scandinavia. In 1992, the Morticians and Hells Angels, who had been on good terms until then, became rivals as both clubs transformed from bike enthusiasts into criminal organizations. The Morticians then changed their name to Undertakers MC and became allies of the Bandidos, whose only European chapter was based in Marseille, France at that point. In 1993, the Undertakers merged with the Bandidos to become Bandidos MC Denmark. In 1994, the Hells Angels tried to prevent Morbits MC from growing into an established biker gang and potential rival in Sweden. The Morbits then joined an alliance with the Bandidos, who backed up their prospect club. Outlaws MC also joined with the Bandidos in Norway. Police and prosecutors described the conflict as a drug trade war between the 2 most powerful outlaw biker gangs in Scandinavia, the Hells Angels and the Bandidos, a deadly game to prove who's the toughest. Many of the port cities in Scandinavia, particularly Copenhagen, were used to smuggle drugs in from Spain and the Netherlands. However, the criminologist Joy Bay criticized this assumption, saying that the police tactics were ineffective because they were based on the incorrect premise that the motivation of the bikers was profit, while in fact they were driven by values such as honor, style, respect, and brotherhood, and any drug crimes were incidental. In retrospective interviews in 2014, involved bikers rejected the drug trade war interpretation and said the war started from a purely personal confrontation when the small Morbits Club, with only 6 members, refused to capitulate to the larger Hells Angels. Between 1994 and 1997, there were at least 36 break-ins at Swedish and Danish army installations, at least 16 Bofors anti-tank missiles, 10 machine guns, around 300 handguns, 67 fully automatic rifles, 205 rifles of various calibers, hundreds of hand grenades and landmines, and 17 kilograms of explosives plus detonators were stolen. Police believe the Bandidos or their support clubs were responsible for the majority of the thefts. The Hells Angels obtained Russian and Yugoslavian-made rocket launchers as well as surplus machine guns and rifles from East European countries. The conflict saw the use of the Swedish at 8 times, and the Russian RPG-22 3 times. Hand grenades were used 4 times and a booby trap once. Car bombs were utilized 3 times, while other types of explosives were also used on 3 occasions. The bombs used scaled in size between 1 and 5 kilograms. According to a 1997 report by the New York Times, the Bandidos' presence in the Nordic countries at the time of the war consisted of around 130 members from at least 7 chapters, while the Hells Angels contingent was made up of around 290 members in total from 15 chapters, with 85 in Sweden, 110 in Denmark, 70 in Norway and 25 in Finland. The first incident was a shooting at the clubhouse of Morbits MC on January 26, 1994 in Helsingborg, Sweden, but no one was injured or killed. In February 1994, there was a shootout between Hells Angels and Bandidos members in the same city, resulting in the death of Joachim Bowman, a member of Rednecks MC, a Hells Angels support club. Just days later, an anti-tank rocket was fired at the Hells Angels clubhouse. On June 22, 1994, the president of Clan MC, an ally of the Bandidos in Finland, was shot dead by the Hells Angels, and on February 19, 1995, the war reached Norway as a shootout in Oslo between the Hells Angels and Bandidos ended in one biker being wounded. Michael Joel Ljunggren, the president of Bandidos MC Sweden, was assassinated on July 17, 1995, and the Bandidos retaliated by firing anti-tank rockets at the clubhouses of Hells Angels prospect clubs in Helsinki, Finland, and Helsingborg, Sweden 9 days later. 2 Bandidos members were later sentenced. Kaida P. Blom was given 6 years imprisonment and Antti-Tano Tapani was given 4 years. When Bandidos MC Finland's president arrived at a Helsinki courthouse for the trial of Blom and Tapani, he was attacked and beaten by Hells Angels and Cannonball MC members. A Hells Angels-owned tattoo parlor in Helsinki was later destroyed in retaliation. On Christmas Day 1995, 2 Hells Angels members were beaten up by Bandidos at a nightclub in Copenhagen, signaling the beginning of the war in Denmark. In January 1996, there was a series of bombings in Norway. Hells Angels Prospect Club, Screwdrivers MC's clubhouse in Hamar and the Hells Angels clubhouse in Oslo were the targets. A Hells Angels-owned bar in Helsinki, Finland was also bombed a month later. On March 1, 1996, the Hells Angels attacked the Bandidos Helsinki clubhouse where 2 Bandidos members suffered gunshot wounds. Jarkko Koko, the vice president of Bandidos MC Finland and one of the men shot, died 16 days later in hospital from his wounds. 2 Hells Angels prospects were later arrested for the murder. Ilkka Ukkonen was sentenced to 12.5 years in prison and Jussi Penttinen was given 6 years. On March 10, 1996, there were twin attacks on Bandidos members at airports in Denmark and Norway. At Fornebu Airport in Oslo, several Bandidos were wounded, and at Kastrup Airport in Copenhagen, Bandidos who were returning from a weekend in Helsinki were shot, 3 wounded and 1, Ulf Larsson, was killed. 6 Hells Angels members and associates were arrested and sentenced to a total of 53 years in prison, and 1 was given a life sentence. In April and May 1996, there was another series of bombings as the Hells Angels clubhouses in Helsingborg, Sweden, and southern Denmark were attacked, and the clubhouse of a Hells Angels prospect club, Avengers MC, was also attacked in Aalborg, Denmark. Jan Face Krojensen, a Danish Bandidos member, was shot and killed in Drammen, Norway on July 15, 1996, and Hells Angels supporter was shot 6 days later in Oslo. 2 Hells Angels were also shot and wounded that month in Malmö, Sweden, and at Gyderup prison in Denmark. On August 28, the vice president of Hells Angels MC Sweden was shot and wounded in Helsingborg. In October 1996, there were 3 attacks on Hells Angels clubhouses. In the third of these, an explosion in Malmö wounded 12 civilian bystanders, and 3 days later, an anti-tank rocket was fired at a clubhouse in Copenhagen during a party. Hells Angels prospect Louis Linda Nielsen and guest Jana Krohn were both killed. Bandidos prospect Niels Poulsen was convicted of carrying out the attacks and sentenced to life in prison. On the 30th, a car bomb exploded outside the Hells Angels clubhouse in Oslo. Toward the end of 1996, there were shootings of Bandidos members in Horsens and Aalborg in Denmark. At the beginning of 1997, a member of Hells Angels, Ken Thriso Svensson, was murdered in Aalborg, and the president of the Outlaws, Thor Henke Holm Hansen, and a French member were shot and wounded by a member of Untouchables MC. A Hells Angels ally Bandidos foot soldiers were also shot in Amager and Kogen, Denmark. The Bandidos responded by ordering shootings on Hells Angels members and allies in Frederiksberg, Copenhagen. On June 4, 1997, a car bomb exploded outside a Bandidos clubhouse in Drammen, Norway, killing Irene Astrid Bakevold, a civilian passing by in her car. A Hells Angels member was convicted of the bombing in 2002. 3 days later, Bjørn Gudmansen was killed and 3 other Bandidos were wounded after a shooting in Lyselage, Denmark. Hells Angels member Van Smith was convicted of the murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. The last incident happened on April 11 when the Bandidos clubhouse in Dalby, Denmark was bombed. The war ended on September 25, 1997, as Big Jim Tinden, the president of all of the Bandidos European chapters, shook hands with Hells Angels Europe president Bent Blondie Nielsen in front of Danish TV news cameras. By the end of the war, 11 murders and 74 attempted murders had been committed and 96 people were wounded. Both clubs signed a treaty saying that no more chapters would be opened up in Scandinavia, but both sides had already broken the treaty by the end of the 1990s. In Denmark, a law that banned motorcycle clubs from owning or renting property for their club activities was passed. The law has subsequently been repealed on constitutional grounds. A spate of bombings in Sweden during the late 2010s and early 2020s has been attributed by Swedish police to a resurgence of drug wars between rival gangs.